It's 5:45 p.m., which means it's time for BCTV's Nightly News Roundup. I'm Roland Boyden, and this is 5:45 Live. Joe, thanks for joining me at the desk today. We got some spring behind us here in the window. I couldn't believe it when I came up here onto our 230 Main Street rooftop studio and saw some green there. Pretty amazing. On deck tonight for this Friday edition, we're going to talk a little bit about Brattleboro's new sidewalk project. We're going to check in with Sevids. They had a big meeting this past week, and they're scheduled for some more. It's Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. We'll talk a little bit about the Pulse Plunge as well, because the Marina Plunge for Charity is coming up, and I want to check in with that again. We've got some Bernie in there. We'll do our 7-town summary, including some dog-biting controversy in Putney, and we'll also look back at Chernobyl. It's the anniversary. And there were some happenings in town with some Vermont Yankee protests, subsequent Vermont Yankee protests as well. All that and more, we're going to jam-pack it in. I bet we can even do it in less than 15 minutes so people can get a jump start on this weekend.
11 and change.
Anyway, give us a go. Stick with us right here on 5:45 Live. That must be you holding that camera there,
yes, that was me standing there holding that camera, and that water was cold, I think.
Welcome back to this April 26th, 2013 edition of 5:45 Live. I'm Roland Boyden, alongside Joe Bushy. Some footage there of one Daryl Pillsbury, your often co-captain, Joe, making the plunge. It's time for, I believe, the 8th annual Plunge for Charity.
Yes, it is.
All right, yeah.
Oh, what do we got? Sunday, May 5th at the Marina, the 8th annual Plunge for Charity. This year, all donations for this year's plunge go to benefit Living Memorial Park Snow Sports. The lift cable must be replaced in order for them to open next year, so that's what the money's going for. It's going to be about $10,000 for that. So we're looking to get a lot of people down there and come in your best swimsuit or your craziest costume, but get ready to jump.
And if folks want to find out a little bit more about just what this event is like, there is a Pulse of Brattleboro or two up online. Brattleboro News, all one word, is the YouTube channel where you can check out all of Joe's videos. And of course, BrattleboroTV.org has all those up as well. All right, I'm going to put us into the close-up here, perhaps on your close-up, Joe, and you can take this story where it begins next up.
Next up, it should be no surprise that one of the top picks in last week's Brattleboro tagline competition turned up the catchphrase, Windham County, where no one can afford to live. Issues of that sort are perhaps the idea behind Sevids, introduced on as their own website as the Southeastern Vermont Economic Development Strategies, or Sevids, which was started in 2007 as a small group of people from across the region looking to improve broadband and cell service. After many meetings, it became painfully clear that the region's problem wasn't lack of broadband, it was lack of economic development. Fast forward 6 years later, the meetings continue, including one last week that packed the house, as local business owners, entrepreneurs, politicians, and concerned residents turned out to voice their concerns. At Sevid's kickoff event earlier this spring, Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation Director Jeff Lewis, introduced as the father of Sevids, urged residents to be patient, asking them to look beyond the hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants funds Sevids has received when it comes to assessing their progress.
We're 5 or 6 of us who've been doing this for 6 years. So it takes a while to understand what you're doing, to begin to build the resources to get 60 people in a room like you who are interested and excited.
You can find these online, Mondo Media Works, and they'll be showing in their entirety on Brattleboro TV, probably right here on Channel 8 in the coming weeks as well. Now, Mondo Media Works, who's been working for them to document these forums, also did a series of interviews, including Jill James. She's one of the employee/owners of Chroma Corp, and she's on the Sevids board. Here's what she had to say about it.
I can see, as a young person, the declining economy. I couldn't pinpoint what it was, but I could see that things were not going as well as I would have liked, and I want to be a part of changing that and making this a better community, a better area for my children and my family to then grow up and be a part of.
Moving on, a few snags early on in Brattleboro's new sidewalk renovation project may have set a bad tone, says Brattleboro Public Works Director Steve Barrett, but the reality is the project is on schedule and ready to roll. That was the topic of a special public forum held below our feet in this very 230 Main Street Municipal Center last night, where residents turned up to ask their questions of Steve, along with other members of the project who presented charts and graphs. Now, in a statement released earlier this week, Barrett was quoted as saying, "The project is intended to improve safety for pedestrian and create a more attractive Main Street." Now, managing moods, he said at last night's meeting, during managing the town's moods during the actual construction period is really more up to the media.
Downtown's open, and I think that's important too, is when we get into these, is to promote downtown. Even if there's a construction project, we need to say that, you know, there is construction going on, but you have access to downtown. So I think that communication with the media is going to be really important, and with the downtown businesses.
Moving on, a few pills in the bottom of an old prescription bottle may not seem to pose much of a threat, but with Vermont leading the nation in prescription drug addiction, holding on to expired unwanted medications can make residents a target for break-ins. And with nearly 20% of teens reporting that their first drug use occurs in the home, cleaning out the medicine cabinet is more important than ever. That's the idea behind Windham County's move to again participate in the DEA's National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day by urging residents to dispose of their medications at one of several drop-off locations around the county, including one right here on the first floor of this very building, 230 Main Street, right in front of the police station main window. We were here for last year's Take-Back Day to gather footage of a special one on one of Vermont's more tragic stories, prescription opiates.
Addiction to Oxycontin and other opiates are making Vermont's streets less safe.
We're working in conjunction with the DEA to allow individuals within the communities that they live in to get rid of unused medication or expired medication.
We are allowing Vermont to have the second highest rate of substance abuse per capita in the country.
Prescription drug abuse is affecting and tearing apart families. It's leading to increased crime rates, and there were very simple things that we could have done.
This just gives an opportunity to dispose of it properly.
If we lose this battle, more Vermonters die. We will see more break-ins to our homes, convenience stores, gas stations. We'll see our crime rates go up. We must find a way to solve this problem.
Some footage collected here on an ongoing story here. Vermonters struggle with prescription drugs and prescription drug abuse, specifically prescription opiates. All right, out of the fancy teleprompter made of a cardboard box here, Joe, and into our even fancier script. This is courtesy of our hardworking content specialist, Maria Dominguez, has been gathering footage on the latest Vermont Yankee protests, much of it sparked by the anniversary of Chernobyl. Heck, I might as well try and do a little close-up here. Here we go. On the night of April 26th, 1986, a sudden surge of power in Unit 4 of the nuclear power plant in Chernobyl, Ukraine, caused the largest nuclear disaster in the world. At the time, firefighters and plant workers fought the fire inside the unit, and that went on for days. An unprecedented amount of radioactive material was released into the environment, and 115,000 people were evacuated from the area near the plant in the following years. Another 220,000 people were forced to leave their homes. Now it's the 27th anniversary, and to mark that phenomena and nuclear disaster, a group of people held a vigil at Brattleboro's Wells Fountain. Now this was led by a Buddhist monk from the Peace Pagoda of Leverett, Massachusetts, and it was joined by several residents. Now we also spoke to the Safe and Green campaign's Leslie Sullivan-Sachs. She's their project manager, to talk a little bit about the importance of recognizing these events.
We can't be paralyzed, and we can't determine our personal life choices by some of these horrific events, except that what we can do is speak out.
Moving on, Newfane residents could find a new paper of their own on the doorsteps this time next year. That's the hope, anyway, of a group of Newfane residents, including author Deborah Lee Luskin, who is looking to engage residents in the act of storytelling. She was one of the narrators on hand at last week's South Newfane Live event, which included the likes of Windham County Sheriff Keith Clark, among others, who were each allotted 7 minutes in which to tell a story for a lively audience.
It's just an encouragement for everybody to recognize that we all have our stories to tell, and that's what makes us who we are. It's what makes us a community.
I'm still not sure why I agreed or thought it would be a good idea to do this. But as I thought about it, 23 years of law enforcement, I have some stories.
I go into a small room, and my producer's on the other side of a glass room, of the glass, and we do 2 or 3 takes, and then she edits it, and about 15 hours later we get a 3-minute story.
It was really scary. We knew that the Soviet Union had in the past cracked down really brutally on situations like this, and nobody guessed what was really about to happen.
Next, a recent rash of incidents involving dog bites from unregistered dogs has prompted the Putney Select Board to seek the counsel of their animal control officer, Henry Farnham, who told the board this week that the problem was not the town's ordinances, calling them some of the best written policies on the town's books, but rather the spreading of information to those in jeopardy of violating the ordinances.
Let's take a look.
You are not required by the ordinance nor by state law to restrain your dog, as long as it's on your property. The problem comes when it enters a public highway. That's where the violation starts. So for joggers, runners, bicyclists, or whatnot, it's a dangerous fine line. You know, is that dog going to stop when he gets to the end of the driveway, or am I about to get attacked?
Again, you can find all those select board meetings, including that Putney Select Board meeting, brattleboro.tv.org. Now, Farnham did suggest that the town designate an area to quarantine dogs should they need to be removed from the possession of their owners following an incident. All right, a few more stories here, Joe. I just want to briefly mention a very cool story coming from Brooks Memorial Library, who's just received a Google Hangout grant. Now, they're going to get a series of high-tech video conferencing equipment, and now they'll be able to actually remote broadcast lectures using Google Hangout and YouTube.
Very cool.
So they'll be able to expand their lecture series. We talked to Director Jerry Carboni a little bit about it. Let's take a look at the clip.
Cool.
So let's say, for instance, an author in Colorado we want to bring to the Brattleboro area community with the video teleconferencing equipment. We could do that, and BCTV can patch in.
Well, Joe, you'd never guess based on the rapid rate with which we are talking here, I guess really with which I'm talking here.
Yes,
but
okay,
today is the National Day of Silence, and it was in keeping with that BUHS TV, the morning news advisory program from the high school, those kids did their weather report. Very cool. Let's take a look. We've ticked down on our time here, Joe, on this weekend edition, but we're going to be back next week. We're going to do a special on BCTV's upcoming telethon. That's right, we've got an auction to raise some money for BCTV. We'll be unveiling a new set there as well. Should be pretty exciting. We'll be gearing up for that. We'll get some footage of that plunge for charity and more. But in the meantime, make sure you stay safe out there. If you head out, do some drinking tonight. Just make sure you're not behind the wheel. And that's all the high horse stuff I've got for us as part of this
designated driver, take a cab, call a friend.
There you go. All right. That's all we got. Night, everybody.
So he says to me, okay, because I got to take care of business before we do this. So he walks off to my left, a little closer to the building behind me, and I start to hear him urinating. And that's immediately followed by, stay down, get down, stay down, get down. I turn around and look, and he's trying to shine his flashlight on a guy that's low crawling out of the grass. So when the sergeant was trying to go to the bathroom, he heard him. So he's got his flashlight, and he's trying to shine the flashlight on him at the same time grabbing his gun. Now I think about this for a minute. He's one man short for everything he needs to do. My next thought is, I'm not stepping between my sergeant and this guy because, well, we have fluid flowing. So the next time you see an event going on the television, and you see all those cops, just think about how we make arrests in Vermont. Sometimes we just have to go with the flow.